4 years ago, I broke up with my boyfriend Dan, but I decided not to tell him. Dan had been coming around to my apartment and my work even though I repeatedly told him I was not interested. I had been planning to move to get away from him and I didn't want him to have an excuse to be in my life. So when I moved away, I didn't tell him I was pregnant and I didn't put his name on the birth certificate. Last year when my daughter was 2, I got married and my husband adopted her. Dan and my sister were still friends in high school, and since Dan still lives in my hometown, they occasionally catch up. A week ago, Dan called me and said that he found out through my sister that I'd been pregnant not long after we broke up. He was furious that I had never told him and that the baby might be his and accused me of keeping him away from his daughter. I told my husband and he's furious that I never told him about my daughter's father. He was always under the impression that her father hadn't wanted to be in the picture, and he's been cold to me ever since I told him. I do not ever want Dan around my daughter, and I think I was justified in my decision to protect her from him. But Dan keeps calling and asking to see his daughter, and my husband says I betrayed both him and Dan by lying about this. Am I wrong for giving my daughter's vegan friend meaty... Sorry. Do it again. Wait. Okay, Bismillah. Am I wrong for giving my daughter's vegan friend meaty meals during sleepovers? My daughter and her friend Em are both 12 years old and like to have sleepovers every now and then. Em's family maintains a strict vegan diet where she isn't even allowed to drink milk. That's what fucking veganism is, yeah, okay. Her parents are nice people, although a bit on the neurotic side. So whenever she's over, I always make a big meaty meal for them. Last weekend, I made some cheeseburgers and steak for them on the grill with a big glass of milk. Em absolutely loves it and always politely asks for more, which I happily provide. Em is a bright young girl and she's a good friend to my daughter, but I notice how much smaller and paler she is compared to my daughter. I think it's likely tied to her family's diet. Not for you to decide. For snacks, I give them some of my Venetian turkey. For breakfast, I typically make a big plate of scrambled eggs and bacon, again with a big glass of milk. Despite her size, Em always wolfs down whatever I make, and I have to say, every time she leaves, it looks like she has a healthy glow to her. What? I know I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I think Em is a bit malnourished. Nothing against vegans or anything. She knows she'll get in big trouble if she tells her folks. I think she fibs a bit to her parents about what she eats here. So it got me thinking, am I wrong for letting my daughter's vegan friend eat meat at my house? Fam, like, some of these things, like, you can't. I'll give you this. You had good intentions. That's it. Am I wrong for sending the police to my stepsister's wedding? I, 32 female, lost my mom when I was 23. It was by far the most traumatic loss I experienced. It was unfair, untimely, and preventable. I got in therapy and was doing better, but I had issues with my dad's new wife and her daughter, who's 25 and just got married weeks ago. We do not have a close relationship, but we were cordial enough to sit at dinner tables. My stepsister treats me as a relative and was as much distant from me. But after my father got sick, we had to see each other a lot. I'm handling his care while stepmom works full-time, and stepsister doesn't do much, though she's always visiting when I moved in to help my dad. I brought with me all of my mom's belongings, and my stepsister showed interest in my mom's necklace and asked if she could borrow it to wear it at her wedding. I refused, and she tried every method to convince me, and I had to put it in a place where I thought it'd be safe after my stepmother got involved. As the wedding approached, they both kept convincing me to let my stepsister have it. She bragged about affording a better one, but it was a matter of showing who's in control. I stood my ground and told them how serious I was, so they backed off. I didn't attend the wedding to stay with my dad. I remember wanting to change where I was hiding the necklace while the house was empty, but I found it was gone. After searching for hours, I called my stepmom and she said not to worry, my stepsister took it and will return it when the wedding is over, but it was clear that I won't see it till after the honeymoon since she and her daughter was staying at the hotel. I screamed at her to return it, but she argued about not wanting to leave the guests and the wedding already started. I told her I'd get it myself, but she forbid me from coming, saying she'd have to keep me out from wanting to make a scene. I called the police and explained to them what was happening. I informed them my stepsister intended to leave for her honeymoon with my property. The police were sent to where the wedding was being held, and they were able to retrieve the necklace from my stepsister. My stepmom returned home and kept shouting at me, calling me petty and crazy, to send the police to my stepsister's wedding, ruining it and humiliating them over a piece of jewelry. She was screaming at my sick dad, telling him to handle me after the stunt that I pulled at the wedding. I defended myself, saying I only wanted an item that belonged to me that they took without my permission returned. She argued further that I could have waited to get it back, but I chose to burn the bridge with my stepsister and said that she considers me dead after this. She said stuff I can't mention, but here's all I can say: it was a bad night. I might have overreacted by getting the police involved, but I had no guarantee of getting the necklace back since I have experience with them in the past. So, was I wrong here? It's simple. If you don't want to get the police involved, you don't steal people's property. So no, you're not wrong. Am I wrong for telling my husband to stop disrespecting our surrogate? I, 34 female, and my husband, 37 male, Hunter, suffer from fertility problems. We recently decided to get a surrogate who is a friend of a friend. We were busy getting everything done legally, and we already had a contract in place. My egg was used, so no worries in this regard. Plus, our surrogate is a respectful, kind woman who's been keeping her part of the contract intact. But it's my husband Hunter who's been starting to act strange. I've noticed that he's been focusing all of his attention on our surrogate, like skipping work to visit her or get her things that she didn't ask for, chat with her all the time on social media, and also constantly offering to do things for her, like drive her places and sometimes even invite her out or offer to repair her stuff for her. She complained to me about this and even told me about things he's been doing that I didn't even know about, like bringing her gifts. I tried speaking to him about what this looks like, but he said he's doing what he's doing for his son and not for her. Still, I asked that he tone it down and respect the woman's space. He got mad at me and accused me of being jealous of the woman. I knew it was going this way. He got mad at me and accused me of being jealous of the woman who's carrying my own child and said that this makes me look bad. He has a crush on her. I feel like guys have this weird thing, like he's infatuated that he got another woman pregnant that's not his wife. You know, like that kind of weird shit. I said our surrogate was the one who complained about his behavior, and he said this wasn't true. Apparently this made him somewhat angry, so I gave him time to cool down a bit. Yesterday our surrogate called me saying that Hunter came over and told her guests to leave. I asked why, and she said that he wanted to show her the $9,000 car he bought for her. I was shocked. She said that she declined the card and asked him to leave, but he started arguing with her about using public transportation and risking our baby's well-being. I was fuming. I called him demanding him to get home, and he eventually did. Once he got back, we started fighting, and I yelled at him saying that he's been nothing but disrespectful and overstepping and inappropriate towards our surrogate. Again, he explained that the car wasn't for her, but to ensure that the baby is safe. I told him to stop disrespecting the woman and stop using the baby as an excuse to stomp all over her boundaries. He ranted about how he was just trying to make this work and that I should do the same, if not more. He accused me of not loving our son as much as he does, but this isn't the way, and putting $9,000 for a car without telling me. He left the house for a while, then came back and refused to speak to me. I might have been hard on him. He might have just been oblivious, so I'm less sure seeing his reaction now. Am I wrong for making a joke about my brother's affair at his wedding? When I was in elementary school, I was the type of kid who got disrupted class often on the report card, so I never focused much on school. My district had this system where they would pair high school students with younger kids to help them with their school, etc. And my mom made me do that after I kept getting in trouble. So my tutor was a freshman, Abby, so she would come to our house after school to help me with my homework or something. My brother John was the same age as Abby, so they would talk to each other and ended up dating. She stopped tutoring me officially after like a month, but since she was at our house a lot, I also talked to Abby a lot and we were close. Fast forward 10 years. Abby and John got married and had a kid together. 5 years later, John tells me that he's getting a divorce because he's met someone new. It sucked because I like John and Abby together a lot, but whatever. Then he tells me he had an affair with his new girlfriend. Also sucks, but I told him he shouldn't have hurt Abby like that, but whatever. I also asked Abby how she was doing, and she wasn't doing well, but she told me she didn't want her to be the reason I have a bad relationship with my brother. However, 2 months before my wedding, Abby calls me and tells me that my brother's girlfriend has been harassing her nonstop. She showed me the text, and his girlfriend has been saying some pretty disturbing things about how she's so much better than Abby, taunting Abby for having to share custody of her kid now, just making fun of her and bullying her. I told my brother about this, and he said he would ask his girlfriend about it. A month later, I asked him if he ever brought it up, and he said he did but saw nothing wrong with the text, which pissed me off. I later confirmed that he saw the same text I saw. Abby apologized for involving me in the whole thing in the first place and encouraged me to still go to the wedding, where my brother asked me to make a speech. The speech went well until I made a joke. The gist of the joke was me turning to his new wife and telling her that if she's learned anything from this, she should know that my brother will never let his wife stop him from finding the love of his life. I like that. That's a really good joke. Yo, high five. I love it. This got my brother and his wife really mad, and they kicked me out shortly after. And my brother has been calling and texting me nonstop, yelling at me. So, am I the asshole here? I think, honestly, this is like one of the only acceptable asshole posts I've ever read. Like, asshole. Like, this is the only time it's okay to be an asshole. Am I the asshole for not inviting my daughter to my wedding? I, 46-year-old male, and getting married to my fiancé, 39-year-old female. We have been together for 3 years. I have 2 daughters, 18 and 19, from previous relationships. My fiancé is a very sophisticated person and has very exquisite tastes. She also doesn't really care for young children, and this has created tension between her and my youngest daughter. While our plans have been delayed due to global circumstances, our plans to get married are finally going ahead. It's going to be a very lavish and expensive wedding. Due to the nature of the wedding and my fiancé's preference, our wedding is also going to be child-free. We will, however, be inviting my oldest as she is no longer a child and because, unlike my youngest, her and my fiancé get along well. However, I didn't realize that my youngest expected to come to the wedding. She tried to tag along with my fiancé and oldest when they were going dress shopping because she thought she was going to need a dress too. I explained to her that the wedding was going to be for adults only and that she wouldn't be attending. She started crying and getting mad, which stressed out my fiancé. She has been distraught about this for days and hasn't let it go. My parents came by to visit one day and my youngest told them what happened. When they asked for clarification on the situation, I explained to them that my daughter wouldn't be attending the wedding because the child-free rule applied to her as well. Besides, this wedding would not be suitable for a child and I don't want my fiancé to have to deal with my daughter on the most important day of her life. Oh my gosh! I had to reread that shit. My parents told me I was being a terrible father by prioritizing my fiancé over my daughter and that on the day of the wedding they would take my daughter out for a special day, which means they wouldn't be in the wedding. I told them that they couldn't do that. Even if they didn't attend the wedding, I wouldn't let them take my daughter. This has become a bigger conflict than I intended. Can I roll my eyes farther back? My fiancé and I both think we're in the right for wanting a child-free wedding, but it appears I may lose my parents from the wedding over this, and I want to know if I am the right or not. So, am I the asshole? No, you're not the asshole. You're the dumbass. You're just a complete dumbass. Like, man. What? You stupid piece of shit. Am I wrong for firing my sister after seeing her blog and not rehiring her without an apology? Basically what happened is I read my sister's blog. It was sent to me by a friend of mine who was asking if one of the characters was me. Spoiler alert, it was. It's a couple of years old and really popular. She doesn't use our family's real names, but they are very similar and use the same first letters. So think real names Kathy, Julia, Marissa, and Brad, and then the fake names being Kathy, June, Marine, and Bob. It's descriptive enough of our lives and what we do for work that my friend identified me from it. It's mostly about her and her life, but there's still a lot about us. A year ago, I had an abortion. It was during the lowest point in my life so far, and only she and my husband knew about it. She swore to me that she would take the secret to her grave. Yeah, she wrote a whole entry about it. A couple of months ago, she and her husband got laid off due to world events. I run my own business that wasn't really affected, and I offered her a job there to help her out. She's not qualified in my field, so I essentially made up a position for her so she could have a steady paycheck. She basically does data entry and other random tasks online from her home. Her blog since then has basically centered on how much she hates it. She called it demeaning work and says a bunch of bullshit about how I obviously don't respect her intelligence. I say this is BS because 1, she would need years of training to work any of the open positions. 2, I told her what she would do when I offered it and she gushed about how grateful she was that I was really helping her. I called her and told her what I had read and how hurt I was. Her defense is that the blog is her online diary where she vents and that I should know not to take any of it personally. She actually had the gall to tell me that she is hurt that I read it. Ugh. Bitch, it's fucking public! Apparently, the right thing to do was ignore it. I told her off for telling the internet my secrets and dragging me online where I could be, and was found out by people who know me. She just said she did all her due diligence by changing the names and it wasn't her fault my friend found it.